Welcome to the Transparency Sunday. Early afternoon. Early evening, late afternoon. Nothing like a little part two for you guys. Again, I will let those notifications pop off. Thank you to the mods for being here. And again, to all of you for showing up.
Is Ron Goldman, a 23-year-old tennis pro. Give him a big hand for coming down here. All right. And down at the end is Anthony Paduano, a 24-year-old bartender. Welcome, Anthony. Good to have you here. All right. Guys, here's the deal. The guy with the most hearts at the end of the show is crowned King Stud in a fabulous ceremony with little children and lily pads. It's really beautiful. And you also are entitled to a fabulous date with the woman, and we pay for it. Perfect? All right. Ron, we'll start with you. You make a good impression on the phone with a woman?
I guess so. I don't like to talk a lot on the phone, so I'm kind of blunt to the point. Just let's get it going.
Be ready at 8. I'll be there. Boom.
Be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We asked the ladies what their impressions were of you when they talked to you on the phone, Ron. And here's what they said. One of them said, rough, wild, and oh, so sexy. Second lady said, this guy is mucho macho. Third lady said, uh-oh, I got a date with Pauly Shook.
Uh-oh.
No, come on. Say it right.
Uh-oh, got a date with Pauly Shore. Connie.
Connie?
No.
Oh. What'd you say, Constance?
I said this guy is mucho macho.
Really? Why?
Well, because when I first talked to him on the phone, he had a deep voice, like a man should. And I thought this guy better be hot with personality like that, so.
Meaning his personality was great, or?
He was kind of, like you said, straightforward on the phone, to the point, kind of cocky, you know.
Again, welcome to the Transparency. This is episode 3, O.J. Simpson trial breakdown. We're kicking off this episode with a game show that Ron Goldman was on. Very rare find, but at least you guys can see a little bit of Ron Goldman's personality and kind of who he was.
And did you like that?
No.
Okay. Who thought they were talking to Pauly Shore? Who was that? Oh, Diane. Why?
Because he told me he was going to go play volleyball at the beach, and I pictured a long hair, skinny. Because he sounded like a beach bum, sort of like Pauly Shore.
Uh-huh. Is that your type?
No, not really. But he didn't look like that, so.
Okay. All right. Anthony.
Here I am.
Good. What's the first thing you notice about a woman?
Most of all, I like full, sexy lips.
Wow.
My answer's
I love
teeth.
the kiss. I love the kiss a lot. I like kissing.
Okay. All right, well, we asked the ladies what they noticed about your looks, Anthony. And here's what they said. One of them said, love that big nose.
Thank you.
The second lady said, he's everything I've ever lusted for in a man. Third lady said, yo, he looks just like Rocky, the flying squirrel.
Love that big nose would have to be Diane.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Large noses are a trademark with Italian men, Diane. Is that good?
Yeah, I have a fetish for noses. I think that gives someone personality, and he had a nice big nose.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
5 people lost weight with Dexatrim. Now that's powerful proof.
Dexatrim, medically proven to help you lose weight.
Good. Ron's got 5, but 5 doesn't beat a perfect 9 by Anthony. Oh, my God. Oh, how excited. Here's the deal, guys. You can still win, though, Ron, because it's double or nothing now. All you got to do is tell me who you want to go out with. If she wants to go out with you again, still going, you get to go and we pay for it, all right?
Perfect.
We'll start with you.
All right. I didn't pick Connie. It dragged too long. I had no clue, like, really where the feelings were, so I kind of left Connie out.
Okay.
Didn't pick Vala. Vala was a great girl, but I just had the best date with Diane.
Okay. All right. And if Diane had her best date with you, where are you guys going to go?
I figure we get a houseboat on the Colorado River for a couple days and lie naked during the day and
Of course.
make love naked at night.
You should get a house Jeep.
A house Jeep. I was thinking about it.
All
With a
right.
blowing condom.
Or a Jeep boat. Anthony, perfect stud. Same deal with you.
Well, I had a good time with Connie. We just didn't click. It just didn't go off. So I didn't pick her.
Okay.
Also, had a great time with Diane. Nothing wrong with the date. Everything went wonderful. I didn't pick her. And hands Vala. She's it. She's forever.
I'm shocked. If Vala picks you, where are you guys going to go?
I think we're going to go to Aspen, Colorado. We'll melt the slopes during the day, and we'll snuggle by a fire at night.
You picked Anthony. You're off to Aspen and skiing and bedtime storing and melting snow. What's it going to be? Oh, my God, I don't believe it. That perfect stud finishes the race. Good job. Oh, my. It's all up to you. Diane picked Ron in the incredibly unlikely chance that you picked Anthony. You're off to Aspen and skiing and... All right, pal. You could be off on a fabulous houseboat trip on the Colorado River. Ooh, it's going to be chilly. Ron!
All right, guys, so both men were picked. They're, what an old show. And that's what I'm saying, Hell to Colorado. So there's your little clip before we go into this episode. Again, that's a rare find. That was Ron Goldman on, the show was called Studs. The show was called Studs. I got some other rare finds for you. So a couple things here. It should be noted that Ron Goldman's apartment that he occupied, by all accounts, with the girlfriend that they broke up with 4 months earlier, Jackie Bell. Not sure if she was still living there with him and they were continuing on to be roommates. But this residence was 11663 Gorham Ave, apartment number 3, which was less than a mile away from Mezzaluna. So less than a mile away from the restaurant. As far as where Bundy Avenue was, about a mile and a half from that area. Just kind of putting things in perspective as far as the distance. Also, August 8th, 1994, the New York Times put out an article, and Bill Chang was the manager of a Ben & Jerry's that was across the street from Mezzaluna. And after Nicole had dinner that night, they then went and got ice cream. Well, nobody ever went and talked, as far as the prosecution goes, nobody ever went and talked to the manager, Bill Chang, from Ben & Jerry's, except the defense actually went and sent one of their PIs. And here is a rare find from, again, August 8th, 1994. The New York Times published this article. And it has to do with timelines. So you guys know how I roll. I'm all about timelines. So I'm going to share that with you. And right here is actually the newspaper article, but the part that's highlighted white is that on that fateful night, Nicole Simpson was seen with a man in a shop. That shop would be the ice cream shop. Again, this is exactly word for word how it was written in 1994. Again, August the 8th, 1994. Nicole Brown Simpson, her 2 children, and a young man in a suit stopped for ice cream the night that she and Ron were killed. The manager of Ben & Jerry's store told the publication. The manager, Bill Chang, said he did not believe that the man had been Mr. Goldman, whom he had seen photographs of. Miss Simpson, 35, Mr. Goldman, 24, obviously stabbed to death. Mr. Chang, 21, said Miss Simpson's group had come into the store between 9 and 10, or perhaps just a tad bit later that night, apparently after dining at the Metzaluna restaurant across the street. Mr. Goldman was a waiter at the restaurant. The store is less than a mile from the condominium. The only reason I remember her was I saw that there was a white couple with black children, Mr. Chang said. That caught my eye. Miss Simpson and the man in the suit and tie simply stood next to each other during the 5 to 10 minutes. Mr. Chang said it was a typical sale on a busy Sunday night. All the tables were full, so they paid they paid with cash, and then they took the ice cream and left. Mr. Chang described the man as being about 6'1" and in his late 20s. Mr. Chang said private investigators working for Mr. Simpson's lawyer, Robert Shapiro, had questioned him and Miss Simpson's visit to the store, but the police nor the prosecutors have ever asked about it. A couple of things are very interesting there, which we will get to in a little bit. But for right now, we're going to leave you with that information. Then I'm going to bring up this information. I did some digging around on who Jackie Bell, who Andrea Scott, and who Tiffany Starr were. And those were all women that were mentioned when, saying the name Ron Goldman. So here we go. Here's another thing I want to point out for you, which is the timestamp. I knew that Ron Goldman had to punch out from work. Let's get that timestamp, right? So we do. Let me pull this up. Jackie Bell. Jackie Bell was the ex-girlfriend of Ron Goldman, who was stabbed to death on June 12th, along with his friend Nicole Brown Simpson, the ex-wife of O.J. Simpson. So I went on further. Boom, 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 boom. Let's see here. To this part. Jackie Bell couldn't believe Ron was on when she found out he had been killed in cold blood on June 12th, less than 4 months before they ended their 1.5-year relationship. Maybe if she would have given him another chance, he could still be alive. It's very hard waking up in the morning knowing one of the few wonderful people in the world is gone. He wanted a commitment. I'm not very good with commitments. Maybe if I had given him the commitment he wanted, he'd still be here. He was very sweet, honest, faithful guy when we were together. She emphasizes when we were together. He'd always be there with a rose or have a candle-lit dinner laid out on the floor when I got home. Jackie Bell, a young, slender blonde, met the handsome Ron Goldman at a club in 1992. They started dating soon after they met and moved in together at it was a one-bedroom West Side apartment, which I did my digging, and then this article corroborated that. He wanted a commitment. Jackie and Ron spent their days dining and watching videos at their place. They had a puppy. After about a year and a half of dating on and off again, Jackie left for St. Louis. She came back to their home in Brentwood after Ron flew there to persuade her to return. For a guy who doesn't have a car or a dime, this was really quite wonderful, she said. In February, Jackie Bell moved out for good, so that would be February, before the June murder. Ron showed up in tears at the Tony Westside boutique where she worked in, with his tears begging him for another chance, but Jackie knew things wouldn't work out. He wanted me back, he missed me, she said, but it was not meant to be. This is an old article on the newspaper that claimed Jackie and Ron Goldman were sort of still dating. And that's what that is right there. According to Ron Goldman's sister, Kim, said after Ron and Jackie Bell's final split, he started dating a girl named Andrea Scott. This was stuff that came up in trial. When did Ron and Jackie break up? So this is this Q&A. I believe the end of 93. How did you learn of this? Ron told me. Sorry, hold on. Why did they break up? Do you know? A relationship wasn't working out. Question. Is that all you know about it? Answer. About why they broke up. Yes, just that they couldn't work it out. Who broke up with whom? Do you know? The final time, I think Ron did. Who was he dating after Jackie? Andrea. What is her name? Andrea Scott. When did they start dating? If you know. I don't think I specifically... when do you think they started dating? Were you told by Ron about when they started dating? Answer, no. Question, was it soon after the relationship with Jackie ended? No. Was it February, March, April of 1994? Do you know? The earliest time I knew about her was in May of 1994. How did you find out about it? I was supposed to meet her. Where were you supposed to meet her? In Agora Q. Or in Agora. Question. Were you down in May of 1994? No. I was going to meet her in June. You were told about her in May. Answer. Correct. Who told you about her? Either my dad or Patty did. Apparently Ron didn't date Andrea Scott for long. He had just started dating Tiffany Starr. Tiffany Starr was a model and a cocktail waitress at the Renaissance. She was on her second date with Ron on Friday, June 10th, 1994. So just 2 nights, just so you guys know, the murder was on a Sunday night. So Friday night, June 10th, they were on a date. That was their second date. This is something I never knew until just recently. Tiffany recalled what they talked about on their last night together. He was telling me how he wanted to get married in the next couple years, and he wanted to have children. He wanted a son. 5 days passed before Tiffany found out Ron had been killed. She said she called him at his work to remind him about their upcoming plans. I never realized it was Ron who was murdered, Tiffany said. I have been crying ever since. I kept calling his answering machine just to hear his voice. Tiffany, who was 24 at the time, said after Ron's funeral, I'm just going to continue on. These are just some pictures, but okay, Ron grew up Jewish. He attended a high school, Stevenson High School in Illinois. He was a student at Illinois State for just one semester, where he planned to major in psychology. He pledged Sigma Nu, a fraternity, before he followed his family. His family then moved to Southern California, and so he went there at 18. When younger, Goldman had worked as a camp counselor, volunteered with disabled children. While living in Los Angeles, Goldman took some classes at Pierce College. He learned to surf and enjoyed playing beach volleyball, rollerblading, night clubbing, and working out at a trendy gym. That is the trendy gym that he actually meets Nicole at. He neither drank nor took drugs and adhered to a low-fat diet. Now, I did obtain, because I'm sweet, I did obtain Mr. Goldman's autopsy report, and I'll go over that as well. Let's see here. Upon arriving in California, where he lived independently from his family, Goldman first supported himself by working as it was a headhunter, and then as a tennis instructor. That's when he was on that show, when he was a tennis instructor. And then he worked a string of waiter jobs. He also occasionally did work as a model. Not long before his death, he had earned an EMT license, but decided not to pursue that career. Instead, he told his friends that he wanted to open a bar/restaurant in the Brentwood area, just like he had told Tiffany Starr. Ron told his friends his vision of opening a future restaurant/bar. According to his friend Jeff Keller, Goldman wanted to learn all about the restaurant bar business, and occasionally worked as a promoter at a Century City dance club called Trips. He also was doing some promoting and organizing at the Renaissance Club. That was the Memorial Day weekend event that he did. So just 10, 12 days before his death. Goldman had also expressed aspirations of acting in show. That's the show I just showed you guys, The Studs, in 1992. At the time, he was murdered on the evening of Sunday, June 12th. Goldman had a job as a waiter at Mezzaluna, a restaurant located, there's your address. Nicole Brown Simpson, the ex-wife of OJ, had called there to report that her mother, Brown, had accidentally left her glasses on the table. After a quick search, they were discovered in the gutter outside the restaurant. Now, here's where there's a little bit of a clash. This is obviously not what was testified to, but although Goldman had not served Nicole's table, and that's not true based on the testimony that the girl gave. The girl's testimony is that she saw, or that Ron Goldman saw that Nicole's name was down. Oh, that's my friend, I'll take that table. So although Goldman had not served Nicole's table, he agreed to take them to her home after work. Again, based on the woman's testimony that testified, that worked with him, he took the table. Before returning the glasses, Goldman stopped at his apartment located at 11663 Gorham Avenue. He had after-work plans with his friend Stuart Tanner. Stuart Tanner was the bartender at Mezzaluna. He was going to go home and change, and then we were going to go out. Ron Goldman punched out at 9:33 p.m. and then, according to Tanner, stayed another 15 minutes to have a bottle of water at the bar. Then he left, still in his uniform, black pants, white shirt. His tie was shed a little. I always wondered if he just had black pants and the white shirt, So I was hunting around for a long time to confirm, which I've always believed that he was in a tie that night. Okay? So, but they're saying that his tie shed. Now, also I always thought it was interesting in this article that, does that mean it was totally off? Was it just like kind of like taken off just a little bit? But shed would mean, in my opinion, not there. Now let's go back to what Mr. Chang had said. Remember, 2 white people, 2 black kids. There's a guy in what looked like what he would say a suit and a tie. Well, that's as pretty close as you can get. But this guy was saying that he was that Ron Goldman would have been with them at the ice cream place across the street. He carried the glasses that Simpson wanted to return. So this is what this guy is saying, that they're typing up, that he carried the glasses. Well, I find something weird about that because he had an envelope. The glasses weren't out by themselves. They were in an envelope. So how would you know that those were the glasses in the envelope, you know? But here it is. He carried the glasses that Simpson wanted returned to her. I think that I would be saying something like, well, I saw him walk out with an envelope, but if there was conversation about, hey, I'm going to take these glasses back. But he's basically saying that he carried the glasses that Simpson wanted returned to her and then said, I'll see you later. As he said that as he was walking out the door to Tanner. So again, go ahead and write down your 9:33. That's the punch out. And it's only by Tanner saying that he spent 15 more minutes, but by all accounts, could he have left at 9:33? When Ron arrived at Brown's residence, located at the 875 South Bundy Drive, he was stabbed to death, along with her on the walkway leading to the residence. He was just a couple weeks shy of his 26th birthday. Remember, his body was found just shortly after midnight, which was at 12:13 p.m. or a.m. technically. All right. This is your boy's autopsy. I'll be going over this at the end, but we're going to see this 40 minutes, and then I'll do that.
In week 5 of the O.J. Simpson trial, one of the lead detectives takes the stand. Tom Lang and his partner have every decision they made scrutinized by the defense, down to the smallest detail. A grueling cross-examination accusing the detectives of sloppy police work. I'm Roger Cossack, and this is O.J. 25.
You seem to have 2 options. Either you offer an apology to the court, or we
This
proceed to a
this is amazing.
contempt hearing. Those are your choices.
Mr. Darden is simply responding to the events that have been occurring in this courtroom today and have been occurring throughout cross-examination. I myself have become overwhelmed by the fact that the jury has been given hearsay, has been given, and the record will stand by what I said, slop, in the form of counsel testifying before every witness.
Didn't I just tell you I didn't want to hear that? I'm interested in a contempt proceeding.
The tension between the lawyers, evident throughout the trial, explodes during a sidebar conversation. The mic is turned off, but Chris Darden so infuriates Judge Lance Ito that he stops the trial and sends the jury out of the courtroom.
My recollection is that Johnny really could get under Chris's skin.
I'm just telling Mr. Cochran I don't want to hear his mouth this afternoon. And so, because I'd like to ask a few questions for later.
You bet.
He could really say and do things that would cause Chris to react in ways that were predictable.
Mr. Darden, let me give you a piece of advice. Take about 3 deep breaths, as I'm going to do. You want to take a recess now for a moment?
I don't require a recess.
Just so you know, this is when Chris Darden, and they're gonna explain the backstory of this, but him, like I told you guys in the beginning, him and Johnny Cochran went at it, and this is one of those times, and Judge Ito was about to hold him in contempt. Insanity, just insane.
All right. I'll hear your comment at this point. I've cited you. Do you have any response?
I would like counsel, Your Honor.
Do you represent Mr. Darden in this matter?
I don't know if I'm legally entitled to, but I would like to be heard on his behalf.
All right.
What we are all concerned about here, Your Honor, is that there is a method of cross-examination that is being conducted by Mr. Cochran
It's
that
not
has
what I'm interested in, Ms. Court.
and that is the impetus for the exchange at sidebar, Your Honor. And we are, all of us, greatly concerned about what the jury is getting. They're getting, that is the impetus, that is what led to
I don't want to hear
the
this.
exchange at sidebar, Your Honor. Mr.
No, Ms. Clark, I don't want to hear about that. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the refusal to avoid, the refusal to obey the court's order, not to address that issue, not to speak to the court, as I was hearing from one counsel, not to interrupt the court. And the court gave 3 admonitions, and Mr. Darden chose to ignore those.
Mr. Darden did not choose to ignore them. I think Mr. Darden was simply at that time overcome with what has been transpiring with Mr. Cochran's cross-examination. It was not a desire to flaunt the court's authority.
He's a very sensitive man. He took this case very seriously, and to this day, he takes this case very personally.
When I invite counsel to take 3 deep breaths and think very carefully about what they're going to say to the court next, that's an opportunity to get up and say, gee, I'm sorry, I lost my head there. I apologize to the court. I apologize to counsel. When you get that response, then we move on. You want to fight some more with the court? You're welcome to do so. I'm going to take a recess. I'm going to give you and Mr. Darden an opportunity to think about this carefully, with about 10 deep breaths, perhaps.
Every lawyer knows that in a courtroom, you're not going to win every battle. Some you're going to win, some you're not going to win. So you try and pick your spots to win the ones that you think you need to win and not fight so hard on the ones you don't care about.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in class not to be court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I did. In the course of the investigation, did you learn that Faye Resnick moved in and started living with Nicole?
Sustained. Sustained.
Did you find out at some point in the course of your investigation that Faye Resnick moved in with Nicole Brown Simpson on or about June 3rd, 1994? You found out.
Overruled.
You're saying no foundation?
Overruled.
Nicole Brown and Faye Resnick.
Okay, this is huge for your timeline. June 3rd. Oh, I gotta make sure. Oh, Patty can't chat. Oh, gosh, hold on, Patty.
Meet in 1990. Faye moves in with Nicole a couple of weeks before the murders. The defense wants to explore with Detective Lang Resnick's possible drug connections and if they might have something to do with the murders. The prosecution doesn't want this theory allowed in front of the jury. Decades later, Resnick is still being questioned about the case.
I can't comment on that. I really don't know, honestly. I just think it brings back bad memories.
Did you not find out in the course of your investigation that in truth and in fact, Faye Resnick became a resident at 875?
Let me see counsel side by side.
So during the trial, we have no idea what is happening during the sidebar. But now we've got the transcript, so we know exactly what they're saying, and it's absolutely amazing. You're talking about Johnny Cochran at sidebar accusing prosecutors of not knowing how to try a case. Well, Chris Darden gets really angry, feeling the pressure of the moment, taking it very personally, and says to the judge, what, Johnny Cochran's the only one in this courtroom who knows how to try a case? And then the judge gets angry, not with Cochran, but with Christopher Darden, threatens him with contempt twice, and then gives him one more chance, and Darden goes back to the judge. This cross-examination is out of order.
You wish to pursue this?
We are only asking for the opportunity at this time to confer with counsel.
It's a very simple way to terminate this, Ms. Clark.
I'm aware of that.
I think I've offered it to you twice already now. I don't know that I have to do it a third time. But I'm prepared to go forward if you wish to choose, if you choose otherwise. This is very simple.
Perhaps
And perhaps as Mr. Darden had the opportunity to review the transcript that I have before me, he'd see the wisdom of that.
Thank you for the opportunity to review the transcript of the sidebar. It appears that the court is correct that perhaps my comments may have been or are somewhat inappropriate. I apologize to the court. I meant no disrespect.
Mr. Darden, I accept your apology. I apologize to you for my reaction as well. You and I have known each other for a number of years, and I know that your response was out of character, and I'll note it as such.
If you recognize the item that I've just shown to you marked as People 77.
The following program contains graphic images. Viewer discretion is advised.
Now, at what point were you assigned to this particular case?
I was notified at home at 3 a.m., approximately 3 a.m. on June 13th. So I responded. I get up, shower, hit the road.
And at what time did you arrive at 875 South Bundy?
At approximately 4:25 a.m.
And what was the first thing that you did when you got there?
Well, after approaching Detective Van Adder, I was introduced to Detective Phillips and Detective Furman. I was satisfied in my mind that the crime scene was indeed secured by what I saw, yes. We went through the house, observed things in the house. This is just a preliminary walkthrough to tell us kind of what we have.
What did Detective Phillips say to you, sir?
Detective Phillips stated to me that there were bloody shoe prints on the walkway, along with blood droplets, to be very careful where I stepped. We took this little pathway through the rear, through the garage. Various things were pointed out, like the melting ice cream in the back, Nicole's vehicle in the back. There was some blood in the back alleyway. I proceeded with Detective Phillips. Along the way, I observed blood droplets on the driveway to the left of or the south of those shoe prints. So we're looking for our suspect with an injury to the left side of their body. I'm not being rude here, but this is the finger that Simpson had cut.
When you got to the rear gate, did Detective Phillips point anything out to you?
Yes.
And what was that?
Pointed out what appeared to be a blood transfer, or where I stepped, the 2 droplets of blood on the lying on her left side appeared to be in a what I would term a semi-fetal position. You don't approach the bodies and like they do on television and stick your hands in their pockets and turn them over and touch them and do this, and you don't even get near the bodies. The coroner is in charge of the bodies or anything on the bodies or in the bodies. I observed appeared to be a dark brown or black leather appearing glove and appeared to be a blue knit cap in the dirt area near the feet of victim Goldman.
Detective Lang, I'm showing you now. I'm removing it from the brown bag showing it to you now. Without touching it, sir, can you tell us if you recognize the item that I've just shown to you marked as P?
They appeared to be going directly westerly.
Past the front door.
Correct.
At some point, did they angle in towards the condominium?
Just prior or east of the front door on the walkway, they did appear to do some type of a turnaround.
Okay, so something I think is worth noting here. Always the pictures that they would show, it would make it seem like that their bodies were never this close, number one. And that Ron Goldman, like that she was like back further from where he was. But this is actually something that I think is worth, definitely taking note of.
Yes.
Okay, were they angled in towards the front door?
No, at the front door, they appeared to be going directly westerly.
Past the front door?
Correct.
At some point, did they angle in towards the condominium?
Just prior or east of the front door on the walkway, they did appear to do some type of a turnaround.
And what were you able to see?
Observed a white envelope in the dirt between the two victims.
Can you tell us, is that the body of Ron Goldman, sir?
Yes, that photograph is looking downward and towards the north by northwest. I observed what appeared to be possible defense wounds. Left leg appeared to have been cut. There's quite a bit of blood coming down the left trouser leg. There was scrape marks and blood running across the face.
It's a little cold to say, but at a crime scene, the victims are actually now their evidence.
I observed the victim to be lying on her left side, appeared to be in what I would term a semi-fetal position.
You don't approach the bodies and like they do on television and stick your hands in their pockets and turn them over and touch them and do this, and you don't even get near the bodies. The coroner is in charge of the bodies or anything on the bodies or in the bodies.
I observed what appeared to be a dark brown or black leather-appearing glove and appeared to be a blue knit cap in the dirt area near the feet of victim Goldman.
Detective Lang, I'm showing you now. I'm removing it from the brown bag, showing it to you now. Without touching it, sir, can you tell us if you recognize the item that I've just shown to you marked as People 77?
It appears to be the glove that I observed at the foot of Mr. Goldman.
Sir, do you recognize what's shown to you there?
Yes, that also appears to be the blue knit stocking cap I observed near the glove.
Good afternoon, Detective Lang.
Good afternoon.
You have been a homicide detective for more than 20 years, is that correct?
It's approximately 20 years.
These defense attorneys are going to push you, and they're going to push some more. They're going to ask you irrelevant questions.
Are you aware that Officer Risky, the first patrolman on the scene, touched Mr. Goldman's body? Are you aware of that?
Only through the testimony of Officer Risky.
And where did you see that testimony, hear that testimony?
I was observing it on television.
So you're watching television?
Yes.
Would you kindly repeat that, please? Or I don't recall. Can I check my murder books? Because I had my murder books with me on the stand.
What are you referring to there?
This is my murder book.
That's your homicide book?
Yes, that's one of them.
And so how many books do you have? Homicide books do you have?
In this case?
Yes, in this case.
4 or 5.
And you're taught to, and it's a good practice every now and then, acknowledge the jury respectfully. You maybe nod to them, you look towards them. You don't scowl at them, you look towards them. Recognize that they're there. It's common sense, it's courtesy. Every time I did that, they were staring at me, not staring, they were glaring at me. And they hated me. I was the LAPD. I'm going to beat Rodney King. I'm a racist. I'm an evidence planner. I did this. That's the looks I got. They set up on a little knoll right across the street. Perfect angles for the camera. They're like, the knoll was probably, 10, 12 feet up. I looked over at one point, there had to be 20 different cameras set up along the knoll, just shooting right in on our crime scene, which we didn't want.
The excerpts that I'm going to be pointing out to the court is the lack of depth, the lack of perspective. This tape is clearly more misleading and more prejudicial than probative.
And where does it say that a videotape, an accurate depiction of what happens, would not be admissible?
The problem that we have is that we have a cameraman whose angle and position is unknown, and we have the use of a lens, the nature of which is unknown.
This is a videotape. This would be almost like, and I'm sure that in the Rodney King case, I'm sure the prosecution argued you can't show that tape. The defense argued we couldn't show that tape. But this is an accurate recollection of what took place.
It tends to leave the inference that the feet are in blood or contaminating blood as they move, when you really can't even see them.
I now want to, Your Honor, with Your Honor's permission, mark as defendant's
This is
order
insane.
a videotape, and I want to ask the officer questions regarding that videotape. Did you ever use more than one pair of gloves that day, if you recall?
I may have. I had gloves on for a while, had them off for a while, had them on. I may have. If I'd taken those off, I couldn't have put them back on, so I'd have put a different pair on.
You have that written down anywhere? Is that in your notes?
I took my gloves off?
Yes, but you changed gloves at the scene.
No.
When you have the amount of evidence that we had in the Simpson case or any other case, you're a defense attorney. If you don't go after the cops, you're a damn fool. You put the cops on trial. That's what you do. If you don't do that, you're not a very good attorney. I've had a lot of high-profile cases, and the cops are always attacked for silly little things.
This is Detective Phillips in the right of the photo with his back to us.
Who's that man on the landing without a coat?
I'm having a hard time seeing it from here. It's me. Okay.
Does that look like you?
Yes.
All right. All right. Now you're bending down. Are you taking some kind of measurements at that point?
Yes.
They're standing there at that point above you. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. You're about to step into the area where Mr. Goldman's body was found?
That's correct.
Now, you had no coverings on your shoes at that point, did you?
That's correct.
You stepped. Now, who is that coming through there now? With no glove? Who is that?
Mr. Fung.
Is he one of the criminals?
Yes.
I never worked a case with Dennis. I think he'd been around for about 10 years or so. I would call him a competent criminalist, not an overly experienced one.
You see he has nothing on his hands?
Yes.
And he's carrying, back it up a minute, Mr. Harris. Stop it there. He's carrying a bag or something in his hand?
Yes.
The way that the evidence was collected was a major, major point in the trial and a major part of the defense case. The defense alleged that the collection of the evidence led to corrupted evidence, contaminated evidence. The LAPD made mistakes. They admitted to making mistakes.
You never saw Fung with any coverings on his shoes, right? That morning?
I never observed any.
Do you recall whether or not he was wearing gloves at any time that morning?
I don't know whether he's wearing gloves or not.
Investigators definitely dropped the ball in the way they collected the evidence.
You had a couple of criminalists who didn't have a lot of experience. They could have done a couple of things differently. They didn't do. Did it mean anything as far as the evidence went? No.
Let me ask you this. You said in your testimony you saw some blood spots on the rear gate there at Bundy. June 13, 1994. Is that correct?
Yes.
Those spots have been pointed out to you by Detective Phillips?
That's correct.
You in turn pointed them out to Mr. Fung?
That's correct.
Did you direct Mr. Fung to collect those particular blood spots?
I directed him to do that, and I believe I mentioned to check the entire gate.
All right. And you expected that to be done, isn't that correct?
Yes.
There was a blood drop on the back gate leading away from the crime scene that wasn't collected until a few weeks later, till July 3rd. And this was a blood drop that was later DNA evidence said that it was O.J. Simpson's blood.
It was not done on June 13th, was it?
No.
In fact, it wasn't done on June 14th, was it?
Correct.
And neither the 15th.
That's correct.
In fact, it was not done until July 3rd, 3 weeks later, is that right?
That's correct.
The interesting thing is he was really liked by the police, and in this case, kind of turned the tables for Johnny Cochran.
You're a homicide detective of over 20 years' experience, right? Well, that's foundational.
It's a statement.
And
the way it's phrased,
all right,
it's
well,
argumentative.
you said you're a homicide detective of 20 years' experience, aren't you?
Yes.
Personally, I really like the guy. He's a funny man. He had a dry sense of humor. You get a kick out of him if it's one-on-one, but you're in court and you're getting cross-examined by him, it's a little different. He's going to bring up all those little things he knows damn well aren't worth anything. They don't mean anything.
Do you recognize what's shown there, sir?
Yes, that's it'd be a dark brown or black leather glove that was pointed out to me by Furman.
As week 5 of the People versus O.J. Simpson unfolds, the prosecution finds itself on the defensive. Johnny Cochran accuses Detective Tom Lang of failing to consider any suspects other than O.J. Simpson, again citing contamination of the crime scene and sloppy police work.
So Commander Bushy had ordered that a personal notification be made to Defendant Simpson, and you discussed that with Detective Van Adder?
That was part of the discussion, yes.
Tom was the kind of guy that he just marched forward and he just did what needed to do. Instead of just arguing about it, he just went and just did it.
What was the other part of the discussion?
That we would want to speak with Mr. Simpson, get some type of an initial statement from Mr. Simpson in regards to our investigation, to meet him, to see that his children had been picked up and cared for. And to probably leave Furman and Phillips with Mr. Simpson and return to the crime scene to do the investigation.
We got to the Rockingham location at about 5:15. It was still dark.
Okay, guys, think about this. If you're O.J. Simpson, you know that front door is wide open. Obviously, it's in Brentwood, but still, your 2 children are sleeping upstairs. You know this. If it is you that did this, you're leaving the crime scene, your kids are by themselves. There's actually a really good chance that they'd be the ones to find them, but nonetheless, they're there by themselves. And you're just going to be hopping on a plane and going to Chicago and
Driving up Rockingham, it's the first.
Also, if Faye moved in on June 3rd, 1994, where was she on a Sunday night?
Fairly narrow street. Approached the Rockingham gate. And there was a white Bronco parked right by the Rockingham gate, a little bit at an angle.
I observed him looking at the white Bronco.
And what did Detective Furman tell you?
Detective Furman stated that he believed there was blood on the door of the Bronco.
So I'm looking, and as I'm looking on the door, I see some little specks, some streaks of red that looks like blood.
Phillips attempted to phone the residence with a cellular phone. I could hear the phone ringing from the street. We could.
Okay, so we're going to bring up the obvious here. We see all that blood that's at that scene. All the blood that would have been on OJ. Okay? This little blood that they are saying that is only in this Bronco. This is, when I did this, when I watched this when I was younger, in real time, I, at the small age of 12 and 13, was like, that Bronco would have been covered with blood inside. Okay, especially when you see all the defensive wounds, when I read them off, of Ron Goldman. How is there no blood in that Bronco? The bottom of your feet. You would have to literally, for the only way possible, you'd have to have the common sense, and like, I shouldn't even say common sense. You'd have to be thinking so much on your feet to think, oh my God, I have to take off all my clothes. You'd have to get naked. You'd have to take off all your clothes, and you would have had to have a garbage bag there with you to then put everything. I mean, I'm talking the shoes. I mean, you'd have to drive that Bronco naked home. The bottom of your feet are covered in blood because you're stepping in it. So therefore, the bottom of the Bronco, when you get into the Bronco, the pedals when you're touching them, your hand. I mean, for the person that would have done this to not be covered in blood is insanity. That's not possible. For there to be what we're going to see here be the case, there's no time to clean down the Bronco or anything like that.
Raised no one at the location.
We just left the bloody crime scene. 2 people viciously attacked, numerous stab wounds, 1 nearly decapitated. Is there somebody in that house bleeding? Is O.J. Simpson in that house bleeding? You get paid to make decisions sometimes, okay?
So we decided to go in.
What happened next?
Furman was standing closest to the left side of the gate. He said, I can go over the wall. I said, okay, go. He at this time went over the wall, stepped to his right, and manually pulled the hydraulic gate open.
We got to get into the house and make sure that everybody is okay. We were told that Simpson was by Cato, well, by Arnell, and then Cato that Simpson was in Chicago. We didn't know those details when he left. Although Arnell said, and Cato said, well, he left last night.
It was about this time that Detective Furman approached me. He asked me to accompany him outside into the rear of the bungalow.
So where did Detective Furman take you on that south side path?
He took me down to a point just as indicated in the photograph here. Appears to be a wall air conditioner coming out of the left side of the wall. Okay,
so if you think there's somebody in there possibly dying or being murdered or whatever, wouldn't you jump over the fence and just go straight to the front door, knock on the front door? Why would you be snooping all around and what they're saying their thought process is, I thought they were told to go over there to tell them about the death, give a death notice. Now there could possibly be somebody being murdered in this house.
wall. That particular area is the rear of Cato Kalin's guest room. He took me to a point just this side of the air conditioner.
Do you recognize what's shown there, sir?
Yes, that's appeared to be a dark brown or black leather glove that was pointed out to me by Furman.
Furman didn't plant anything. He didn't plant the glove or anything else. He did his job properly at Rockingham after interviewing Cato Kalin. Cato Kalin says he heard a noise behind his bungalow. He did the right thing. He did the good thing. He followed up on what Cato Kalin said, and he found the glove. That's good police work.
You're the lead investigator in this case. Whether or not there are any blood droplets or anything like that in and around this area where this glove was allegedly found?
I don't believe there are.
All right. What about on the fence? Find any blood spots or anything? Any smears on this fence to the right of where that glove was allegedly found?
I'm not aware of any.
All right, you're an investigator, right? Still?
I am the investigator at Bundy. We had a bifurcation. Detective Van Adder took Rockingham, and I took Bundy as a crime scene.
Now, when the sun came up, everybody could see the blood leading from the rear of the Bronco through the Rockingham gate, up the driveway, into the foyer, and right into the house.
You don't ask a question unless you have the evidence to back it up.
The whole case was predicated on this, that I planted evidence because I was racist.
We are asking that the people be allowed an opportunity to respond and to be heard before whoever is going to be cross-examining Detective Furman comes out with racially blasphemous types of allegations.
The center of the defense case was this argument that O.J. Simpson was framed by Mark Furman, by Phil Van Adder, that there was a cover-up, and that was spurred by racism on the part of these police officers.
He certainly wasn't a figure who was, let's say, had street cred in the black community. I mean, he was seen as someone who had more or less kind of assimilated and sort of moved beyond his so-called blackness. That wasn't his thing. He wanted to be OJ, which was, beyond race. And for most African Americans who feel the weight of their status of being black, that's not a noble position to take.
When I think about race relations and everything, especially with O.J. Simpson, I think the race card was played majorly.
If you believe that Mark Furman is a racist, that would give him the motive for setting up O.J. Simpson.
And this is not a unique case, nor is this detective the first one that may be in a position to be accused of that. However, and to cut to the quick of this matter, short of giving the prosecution an opportunity to interrupt the cross-examination or preview what it can then warn its witness about. And he won't be surprised as long as the information used is truthful, because he will have been privy to it. Whether counsel knows about it or not is another question.
An allegation of racism is one of the most abhorrent things that anyone can say about someone. And it will cause these jurors to remember that and will cloud their perception of this witness. And all we're basically asking for is for an opportunity for the court to decide, not the defense attorney, but for the court to decide whether or not an area is appropriate to go into. There is no evidence that Detective Furman moved any evidence or planted any evidence.
I propose the following, that the defense provide to you in camera, under seal, not to be given to either the press or the prosecution, but to assist you in making rulings from time to time as they may be necessary in cross-examination. Number one, the areas of intended inquiry, and number two, the supporting evidence.
I just want to reiterate again, Your Honor, the unique and unusual circumstances of this case. I'm not aware of any situation where we've had these types of allegations against a police officer who has recovered important evidence in a double murder that's being reported on worldwide by the press.
If there is not a denial, then the need for contradictory evidence evaporates. If there is a denial, I was taught 40 years ago that you don't ask a question unless you have the evidence to back it up.
This is a rough, dirty game, and this is the way it plays out.
In this case, they were going to play race in the media to affect a trial on TV, to influence a judge, to intimidate people, and that's exactly what happened. So it really doesn't matter who you are. If the case doesn't involve race, then a judge needs to actually keep the trial on the straight and narrow and say, this may be the worst person that ever walked on the face of the earth, which I think that was close to what Marcia Clark said. That may all be true. But that is irrelevant to the facts in this case.
In the black community, there was suspicion from the very beginning of police officers like Furman.
Almost from the beginning, race is a subtext of the news coverage. Time magazine's cover story on Simpson's arrest enrages African Americans when the magazine's editors darken his mugshot.
They made him look like a criminal. The media, the white media, was so quick to begin to uncover, and the LAPD, to uncover things that tied him to the murder.
Since the murders, the headlines in the LA Times and the African American press, led by the LA Sentinel, reflect very different editorial perspectives.
The LA Sentinel was part of its mission, part of its purpose was to provide an alternative to the mainstream press, to the LA Times, to local TV news and radio news and so forth.
For example, the week after the Bronco chase, the front page of the Sentinel praises the loyalty of O.J. friend Al Collins, who drives the Bronco during the chase. By comparison, the LA Times story on the Simpson-Cowlings friendship runs on page 19. Outside the courthouse, the scrum of cameras is like a forest fire that creates its own weather. Everyone is fair game. Lawyers coming and going.
Hey, Kristen, how are you? Sure, Kristen. Split sides here. Hi, gang.
Why does the president...
Family members and spectators. Meanwhile, the very presence of the cameras is a magnet for those who crave attention.
The OJ trial really needed our presence.
There were dozens and dozens and dozens of cameras anytime you went into or out of the courtroom, the building. None of us had ever experienced anything like that.
There was this huge media camp, we called it Camp OJ, which was across the street with risers and tents and satellite trucks. There was a gauntlet every day into the courthouse that the defense would walk with reporters on either side shouting out questions.
You guys rolling back there? Good, how are you?
During the 5th week of the trial, Judge Ito takes a tour of a courthouse storage room turned newsroom. Over 2 decades later, relics from the improvised media hub, typewriters, old batteries, and wiring from the phones journalists used remain as if frozen in time.
There was both a camaraderie and a cutthroat attitude in covering the OJ case.
While the way I did it was insensitive, it would have been much more insensitive for them to find out their daughter was murdered over the television.
At the point that Detective Phillips made the phone call to Chicago, what did you do?
I more or less walked with Arnell, attempted to escort her away from the phone out towards the sunroom in front of the house. I had determined at that point that I was going to tell her what had happened. She was very inquisitive and becoming more and more upset. And I felt this was the time that I should make this notification about the death of Nicole Simpson.
What happened next?
She became extremely upset extremely upset. She calmed down after a little bit to the point where she asked if she could call her dad's best friend and have him come over to the house, Mr. A.C. Cowlings.
What is the policy for LAPD with respect to the preferred method of notification of next of kin when a homicide has occurred or a death has occurred?
For the investigating detective to notify in person.
But you didn't do that with the Browns?
No, I didn't. I felt that in the very near future there would be immense media attention, and that once the information were to get out that Nicole Brown Simpson was a victim of a murder, that they could find out through the media what had happened. And while the way I did it was insensitive, it would have been much more insensitive for them to find out their daughter was murdered over the television.
The hardest thing I've ever done is make death notifications. They had to do it in this case, unfortunately, over the phone. That's a horrible thing to do.
It was 6:15 in the morning on June 13th when we got a call. And I was in the kitchen, and for some reason I was awake, and I heard my mom scream.
You can watch every horror movie that you saw with every scream encompassed into one human person, into one embody. And I was like, whoa, what just happened?
This is a call early in the morning out of nowhere. I'm calling a family. If I don't call them, the media is. The media is all over this by this time.
And I just remember that, and I ran back to her bedroom, and I said, what is going on? She was on the phone, she was standing up, she had the receiver to her ear.
My mom was white, like whiter than white, like her life was like sucked out of her.
I said, what's going on? She goes, your sister's been killed. I said, what? Because we had just seen her the night before. And I grabbed the phone, and it was Tom Lang on the other end.
Shortly after I began to speak to Mr. Brown, Denise Brown, I got on apparently another phone.
What did you tell them?
I said, what's going on? He goes, your sister was killed. And I go, oh my God, he did it. And he goes, who did it? And I said, O.J. Simpson. I said, he murdered my sister.
Denise Brown began to scream over the phone, what I believed to be hysterically.
Now, I got initially Lou on the phone and Judith, but unbeknownst to me, her sister had picked up another phone and was overheard what I said, and she started screaming. I knew it, that OJ, he killed her. I know he did. She's out of her mind screaming. It's OJ, he did it. I know he did it. We're going to be talking to a lot of people. There's no rush here, but we're going to start with Simpson when he gets back. But when she started screaming like that, we're going to obviously take a hard look at this guy. Why would she say that? Why would immediately go right to that? Immediately.
When Mr. Goldman's body had been removed from the position that I first observed it, his pockets were checked, and the California driver's license was found in one of his pockets.
I was working that day, and I heard about Nicole's murder, and as it was stated on the news, Nicole and a friend were murdered. I came home, and as soon as I walked in the door, Patty started calling Fred, come, there's somebody calling, something about Ron.
The lady on the other end said this is a coroner's office. Well, of course I know what coroner means, but it just did not even register. And the woman said to me, did you hear about the murder of Nicole Brown? And I said, no.
I don't remember whether she told me who was on the phone or when I picked up the phone. It was somebody calling from the coroner's office. And they asked me if I had heard about what happened during the day, and I said, what does that have to do with me?
And they said, well, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your son, Ron Goldman, was the other victim. And Fred, I said, Fred, hurry up, get here. Hurry, something happened to Ron. Hurry up, come to the phone. And it was like, Fred turned so white. I mean, it was a shock, like, beyond anybody's comprehension. I mean, it almost like didn't register, it just did not register.
That's how I was told, over the phone by a coroner.
Within about 30, 40 seconds of the coroner telling my dad that it was my brother that was the other victim, my brother's driver's license picture was flashed on the news. It's a conflicting feeling to wish that your loved one would have run to protect themselves when their choice to stay and try to help another person cost them their life.
This is not justice. This is a sham. And again, I'm thinking, gosh, what could have been? What if? What if this was only 6 months and there was no cameras here? What if there was a gag order and they didn't release all this? What if there was no Furman? What if there was no Rodney King? The last thing anybody thought about was 2 young people getting slaughtered in West LA in the middle of the night on a walkway. That just seemed to be forgotten entirely.
Week 5 of the trial ends with a twist as the jury is dismissed, when prosecution and defense attorneys do battle over a new witness who is about to leave the country. That's next on OJ 25. I'm Roger Cossack.
Alrighty. Okay. I'm going to point out a couple things, and you can tell me what you guys think. But something that I want to point out, first thing being the garage door being opened.
Personally, it's just what Johnny.
See any bloody shoe prints in that area?
Yes.
Okay, were they angled in towards the front door?
No, at the front door, they appeared to be going directly westerly.
Past the front door?
Correct.
At some point, did they angle in towards the condominium?
Just prior or east of the front door on the walkway, they did appear to do some type of a turnaround.
And what were you able to see?
Observed a white envelope in the dirt between the 2 victims.
Can you tell us, is that the body of Ron Goldman, sir?
Yes, that photograph is looking downward and towards the north by northwest. I observed what appeared to be possible. The victim to be lying on her left side, appeared to be in what I would term a semi-fetal position.
You don't approach the bodies and like they do on television and stick your hands in their pockets and turn them over and touch them and do this.
Dirt area near the feet of victim Goldman. Glove.
Okay, that's the knit hat. That knit hat there, I believe is Jason Simpson's. There was actually a hair on there. It was a dog's hair, and it was never tested. Jason Simpson had a dog, so that knit hat. And then let's see, right where they show the
Later, Resnick is still being questioned about the case.
I can't comment on that. I really don't know, honestly. I just think it brings back bad memories.
Did you not find out in the course of your investigation that in truth and in fact, Faye Resnick became a resident at 875?
Let me see counsel this side by this.
So during the trial, we have no idea what is happening during the sidebar. But now we've got the transcript, so we know exactly what they're saying, and it's absolutely amazing. You're talking about Johnny Cochran at sidebar accusing prosecutors of not knowing how to try a case. Well, Chris Darden gets really angry, feeling the pressure of the moment, taking it very personally, and says, what, Johnny Cochran's the only one in this courtroom who knows how to try a case? And then the judge gets angry, not with Cochran, but with Christopher Darden, threatens him with contempt twice.
There was some...
Okay, right there. This is the shot I wanted. Okay. Whose vehicle is that?
Blood in the back.
Along with blood droplets, to be very careful where I stepped.
We took this little pathway through the rear, through the garage. Various things were pointed out, like the melting ice cream in the back, Nicole's vehicle in the back.
The melting ice cream in the back, we're going to go over that. Listen to these words, though, that he's saying.
Where I stepped.
We took this little pathway through the rear, through the garage. Various things were pointed out, like the melting ice cream in the back, Nicole's vehicle in the back. There was some blood in the back alleyway.
I proceeded with Detective Phillips. Along the way, I observed
Nicole's vehicle in the back.
That's two vehicles there. Again, we'll go over more of that. Take a screenshot of that. Yeah, Nicole had a black Jeep, yep, and a white Ferrari in the garage. Yes, but I'm more concerned about the garage door being opened. If they got home, and so you get home and you go inside and you're calling it a night, you're not going back out. I mean, why are you leaving your garage door open? Why is your garage door open? What do you guys think about the garage door being opened? Was the person that was coming over supposed to just come through the back door? Because then wouldn't Ron Goldman just go through the back door? I mean, meaning like go into the garage? Don't worry, I'm going to be pulling up all your blueprints so you guys can see exactly how the condo was laid out. But my thought process is that you come home, you pull your vehicle, whichever one you drove, you go into the house and you shut the garage door. Why would the garage door be open? Also the ice cream. Listen to his words one more time. He's talking about this ice cream.
Along with blood droplets, to be very careful where I stepped.
We took this little pathway through the rear, through the garage. Various things were pointed out, like the melting ice cream in the back, Nicole's vehicle in the back. There was some blood in the back.
Melting ice cream in the back. Where was this ice cream melting at? Wouldn't the kids, they didn't want any more of their ice cream, they just throw it in that garbage can right there? what the kids fell asleep with. I mean, the drive from the ice cream place to here is just, it's not far at all. It's right down the street. It's like a mile.
Along with blood droplets, to be very careful where I stepped.
We took this little pathway through the rear, through the garage. Various things were pointed out, like the melting ice cream in the back, Nicole's vehicle in the back.
Wait, where's it at? My question right here. Yes. It was on the kitchen counters. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. So what is this guy talking about that there's ice cream melting in the back? I'm not disagreeing with that. So what is he talking about? Ice cream is melting in the back? The back of the house? You get what I'm saying? Like, what? What the fuck you talking about, Tom? So are you saying that what's this man talking about right here? My question to you, where was the melting ice cream? He said he found it in the back. Yeah, I want to know why he's saying he found it in the back. Why isn't he saying, he's making it seem like that he found this ice cream. Is he saying that he went into the house there? No, he's saying he just went to the back, like he walked down that path and that they found ice cream in the back melting. I watched the full trial from time to time. Yeah, this is everything to do with the full trial. This is breaking stuff like that down. But I'm just talking about, I don't believe that O.J. Simpson did the murder. And the way that I'm treating this is O.J. Simpson was acquitted, so who did it? And people are going to be like, why isn't this still an open and active investigation? If O.J. Simpson was acquitted and he didn't do it, right? Then who did it? And if you actually watch this whole trial, you're going to know exactly why they voted not guilty. Because it's wild, actually, what happened in trial. And then I just want to talk about right here, the garage door. Why is the garage door open and not closed? And if her and Ron were having a rendezvous like they had previously had before or something like that, that would mean Ron would be coming to the back door because she would have told him to come to the back door. So then why was he up at the front door? Why didn't he come around back and come up and try to come in that way? If she said, I'm just going to leave my back door open, the garage open. Yes, the candles and everything, those, I'm just trying to talk about logic here, guys. I just want you to think logically. The kids put their ice cream down on the counter. She's like, come on, guys, it's ready for bed. So she gets them ready for bed. They get in bed. Then she starts drawing a bath, and she starts lighting her candles to take a bath. And yet she tells Ron to asks, can you drop them off? Now, was it really that she was expecting Ron to come and hang out, or was that for somebody else? Was there anybody ever coming at all? But then, remember at the beginning of the conversation when I started this live, it was about who was with her. Who was with her? Who was the guy with the suit that Bill Chang said that there was, she was there with the guy with the suit. It's about 6'1". He claimed that that didn't look like that's the guy who she was with was Ron Goldman. So, did Nicole come home with somebody? The prosecution didn't even go bother to speak with Bill Chang. Just saying. We'll continue on, though. There's so much more, but I just want to point out some things that I think if you overlook, then you don't know true crime. But that garage door being opened is interesting. And also the timeline of what we're going to get into is, when did Jason Simpson leave work with his knives? Again, he was planning on having Sydney after the recital with Nicole and the family there, because he got a very special meal all arranged at his new place that he was cooking, as he was the head chef, or one of the head chefs. And he said that the family was coming in, and then Nicole just, doesn't say anything. And then what I believe transpired is that Jason then went over there to ask her about it. Hey, what the hell happened? Like, why didn't you at least call? Like, what are you doing? And then her, and Jason are, going back and forth or whatever. But I do believe that it's important to point out that Nicole was not supposed to go to Mezzaluna that night. She was supposed to be going to Jason Simpson's restaurant where he worked, and she didn't. And then last minute says, oh, I want to go to Mezzaluna instead. Again, we'll get into all that. And then you have to ask yourself, the amount of blood that you guys have just seen. If you think that somebody's going to be stabbing somebody over and over and over, both two people, and there's not going to be blood everywhere on that person, on their bottom of your shoes and your clothes, and you get into a Bronco that you think that OJ just got into this Bronco with all this blood, but then there's only like this little smidget here or that there, nothing on it. That's impossible unless he got completely naked. And that he would even have like the thought to do that, to get in there, but that Bronco would be covered with blood. And so if we're all like the LAPD and we're all talking in a room on June 20 or June 12th, 13th, hey, that Bronco barely had any blood in it. You saw how much blood was there. If OJ got in that Bronco, I mean, that thing would be covered with blood. You're telling me that the police aren't talking about that? The detectives aren't talking about that? Again, sorry that it's extra gory, this series, but it's just the nature of the case. Jason can say all he wants. He's been very rarely interviewed, if ever. He's never really given an interview. O.J. Simpson lawyered him up. Of all the kids, he's the only one that got a lawyer. Arnell did not. But Jason had a lawyer on retainer. There was that woman who saw, we're going to get into all that, because we're basically, so everything that we're doing here is, this is all in order, which is nice. So, and I'm going to leave you guys with this last little tidbit. There had to be some type of altercation first, because She does not have her shoes on. She's barefoot. She opens up the door, so she clearly knows who she's opening up the door for, at the front door. She opens up the door, and if this person had a knife in their hand and was ready to just start stabbing at Nicole, that would have pushed her into the condo, actually into the condo. There's no blood in that condo. So, like, nothing happened in that condo, meaning that Nicole had to walk up out of that condo. She walked out. And whoever she was talking to when she walked out, again, no shoes on, having a conversation. But it had to be with the person that, I mean, why didn't Jason go through the back door, the garage open? So that garage was open. Why didn't Jason go that way? From what this tells me, if Nicole was expecting somebody, she left that garage door open for a reason. Because then they would come through the garage door. Again, we'll find out on the next time, which will be tomorrow night, but, oh no, wait, Wednesday night? I say Wednesday night? Wednesday night? Exactly, everybody. Yes, I always assumed she was walking out to get the glasses from Ron. And that's what a lot of people assume, but that's not the case. Why would she be walking out to grab those from Ron? How would she even know that he was there yet? She wouldn't. Ron didn't even make it to the door to, like, knock on it. Unless they, knocked on the door and that they just started walking down by, like, where that gate was and were talking, and then all of a sudden, whoever then just pops out and was like, you know, stab fest. No. Bluff Creek Studio, thanks for doing this case. So much more interesting than most people remember. Yes, and it's going to get way more interesting. Holly says, could it be possible that both Jason and OJ were there that night? Yes, but I don't think at the same time. I spent lots of time on this, and the way I see it is that after this double murder, I believe Jason went to the mansion and told his dad what he did. And his dad then went over there and couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe what he saw. Hence, a couple of the shoe prints. But I think it's very, very possible that Jason told him. OJ was in the car, though, to the airport at 10:40. So is it possible that I don't see somebody that's having McDonald's with Cato, eating Big Macs, gets back, and then all of a sudden he's like, you know what? I'm gonna go over to Nicole's really quick before I'm gonna be late for this plane, but I'm gonna go over to Nicole's and what? Tara, I think she's a fucking bitch. Whore. You can ask Cato what way they drove home that night, if they at all passed Nicole's to see that lights were on, candles on, or anything like that. But he didn't say that happened. But I believe that something drew him over to that condo. And I believe it was Jason that drew him over to that condo. Because I believe that Jason either called him or went there. It was covered in blood. Who knows? I mean, but I can just tell you that Bronco was not the vehicle of whoever killed those two people. Did not get in that Bronco after all that blood would be all over you. And did not just get in that Bronco. But we'll be back. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Until next time, catch up. And we should be back, I think, on Wednesday with a couple more for you. Again, thanks, mods. Thanks, new names. I see some new names. Thanks to the members. Consider. If this is the first one you're catching, I did last night 2 episodes. So 1 and 2 were done last night, and then today at 11. And now you have this, so catch up, and we'll see you back breaking down the OJ case. But yeah, I don't believe that OJ Simpson killed Nicole and Ron. I do, however, believe that OJ knows who did it. So, and I'm going to show you why.